Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. There was huge reaction yesterday from the pro community to the Skye Nerfs that came into effect, not just because the significant changes made, but also the timing of the changes with the VCT just about to begin. But FNS and Tarik give their thoughts on the matter and actually say that it's probably not as much of a big deal as many pros were believing was actually the case. And that Skye is definitely going to still remain viable into the very near future, and actually it could increase the skill gap in certain ways as well. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. First of all, here from Boaster confirming that, well, here it seems to be Alpha on the left-hand side, and he's obviously, well, tagged in as well. We know that every year there's always some concerns over visas, right? Certain players struggle to get visas for various countries in all sorts of different esports, especially, you know, after, like, a lot of Russian players have struggled with that over the last few years. We saw even Ye, there was questions about exactly why he could not get out for that event that was happening a little while ago, that he was, you know, unwell, but there were concerns about potentially whether there was visa problems there as well. So hopefully these things are getting resolved. The good organizations get them resolved in good time. The organizations that are slightly less, you know, optimal, they sometimes take a little bit too long to get these visas sorted, and therefore you have serious issues with it. It's like last year with Paper X, right, when, you know, something couldn't get out there for the Masters to Tokyo, but then he was able to get to Champions. So, you know, it's always stuff like this happens. Every year it's going to happen. It is what it is. But for Fnatic, it seems like the situation with Alpha has either been resolved or resolved before it even started, and it's a good timing really to get everything done. So as Boaster says, our boy's got his visa, he's in Berlin to get ready to play for the upcoming season. There's also this from NRG. I remember mentioning for you guys a long time ago now about the fact that Chet and the NRG team had decided to pick up some analysts to their roster, or at least one analyst. So we got lots of applications, I'm sure the guys from NRG did, and they went through them all, Chet went through them all and analysed, okay, who is going to be the best additions to the roster, and they've actually signed 2 other guys in. So not only do they have a 5-man team with the likes of Ethan, who is, you know, obviously a legendary veteran player in many respects, and a couple of world champions on the team as well. To be fair, they formerly had NRG, they formerly had SOM, they formerly had Artis the most recent season, but that's no longer the case. And to be fair, there are quite a few teams, like if you look at Sentinels, you know, they've got a coach, they've got an assistant coach, some teams have coach, analyst, and, you know, general manager, like, they've got a lot of staff going on over there, plenty of teams. NRG somewhat less so until now, with Yebo Slays here, and also Vladkor coming in as well. Now, Vladkor's kind of known as to be one of the lineups guys. I know he's, you know, done plenty of lineups in the past, and, you know, found lineups that are really nice, and then found lineups that counter those lineups and all this stuff. So, you know, he's actually a really quite cool addition here, I think. And your boy Slays as well as, like, another analyst, right? So 2 analysts is pretty, I wouldn't say it's exactly rare, but I guess it is pretty rare, right? I mean, most teams have a coach and an analyst. Pretty rare that you have a coach and, like, 2 analysts, unless in certain esports there's, you know, certain analysts for certain game modes or certain situations that come into play. But yeah, NRG definitely taking it seriously, right? I mean, you got the team that they formed, which is an interesting roster, especially because their practice hasn't exactly been going anything crazy. We're hearing rumors from Ethan that actually they've been getting kind of cooked by tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, whatever teams they play from challenges. They're kind of struggling against, at least in terms of winning scrims, but that's a slightly different story to what happens in reality. But as we full well know, teams like Sen, teams like Lev, because they've actually won something in the off-season, maybe there's a little bit of a less likelihood that those teams flop, whereas NRG, it's possible, but they're clearly pulling out all the stops to not make that happen. They've got Philip, who's their chef, right? He cooks their meals all the time, and some sensational meals at that. They've got Chet, and now they've got 2 analysts. Like, yeah, NRG are definitely not backing down from trying to be the best in the world, but it's still going to be a big challenge. There was also this yesterday from Disguised, which is, I imagine, due to be announced in the relatively near future. Actually, in probably a couple of hours, this will be confirmed, I think, from DSG. So, well, this guy picks up the phone here, and, well, DSG, or Toast, of course, says he needs a favour. 7 AM Pacific, so that's actually not long from now. It's rumours that this is going to be the new Disguised Valorant roster for next season. The rumour about this has been that it's going to be effectively a Bleed Esports Academy roster, which actually makes a lot of sense. Like, look, if Toast comes back into the NA Challengers circuit and does another team, that would be awesome, but it would almost certainly lose him just so much money for no return. That's just the reality of the situation. Disguise potentially partnering with, you know, what also would have like some Malaysian representation as well, which is quite cool for Toast, I imagine, in Challengers Malaysia and Singapore, with this team with, okay, Juicy and some other notable players, Alex RR, which is rumoured to effectively be a Bleed, like, Esports Academy roster. We don't know, like, this was rumoured a few days ago now, January the 15th, So it's possible that this team is now different to the one we're seeing here, but you know, who knows? It could go either way on this one. This was the rumor at the time, and apparently that's what is going to be happening. So we'll see if there's any sort of like different update on that. But on paper, this is kind of a cool idea, right? When Disguise can actually, you know, get paid, I guess, or whatever, have a relationship with Bleed Esports where this makes sense. And we know that Bleed have a fair bit of money in the bank. There's no doubt about it. Here's Ye and the guys getting ready to fly out to South Korea to, I guess, like, you know, boot camp ahead of the Pacific kickoff, which is happening in the relatively near future. But Ye was also talking about the big Skye Nerf, right? He added Chet and said, look, can't wait for Chet's reaction to this Skye Nerf coming into play. And there's lots of reaction on both sides of this, whether it actually reduces the skill gap, whether it increases the skill gap in some respects, or exactly what the players think. I don't think that people really denied that Skye was powerful. I think she was probably overpowered, to be honest. She was kind of like a do-it-all initiator, and there's an argument that, you know, Riot are trying to make it the other way now that, you know, 2 initiators in play or something to that effect. The changes themselves were causing a lot of backlash. I think, generally speaking, there's almost no change that the pros won't push back against to some degree. The players do, generally speaking, like the status quo, and any time that something changes, whether it's good or bad in reality, players will complain. It's like I mentioned yesterday when you get the artifact on the smokes a second and a half and when they disappear. It's like the pros complain about that, but has it really made any difference? I don't really think so. Is it indicative of Riot's intention to, you know, maybe dull down the skill gap and help newer players? Maybe, but does it really make any difference to the pro level? Probably not. And this is, you know, maybe a similar example here for Skye. The players frustrated the fact that, you know, only a maximum of 2 flashes, they don't regenerate. The guiding light automatically flashes now as well. This is the one that a lot of people are talking about because it seems to, you know, prevent the ability to fake flash, right? Because if it's going to explode anyway, then it doesn't really work. But to be fair, it still could be possible if you throw it in a certain way, like throw it behind you, and then, you know, the other guy doesn't know when it's going to pop. So there is still an element there, and arguably, you know, it makes it more skillful if you want to try and do a fake flash than it was previously. And also because the agent is now weaker, because it no longer regenerates charges on the flashes, you have to be more careful with when you use the flashes. So, you know, I know pros were saying that actually it reduces the skill gap, which maybe it does in some respects, but in other respects maybe it increases the skill gap of the agent because you have to be more careful, and agents that are, you know, players that are more careful about how they use their flashes can get more out of Skye. I do kind of agree with people that are saying, though, that the previous nerfs they made to Skye a little while ago, they could possibly have reversed those, like the dog, for example, or whatever they changed, if they wanted to make these changes as well. But there was lots of reaction here from, you know, Tarik and from FNS on this one that I'll just share, because, you know, FNS seems to say that actually Skye is still going to get used more than likely, and Tarik says that, well, maybe it's not so much of a big deal that the pros are making it out to be.
What do you think of the Skye changes? I mean, it's whatever. It's mid. Like, it's not a good change per se, but I think they're trying to add Gecko. I think they're trying to make it so people have to play double initiator. So Gecko Sova or Gecko Skye. I think they're trying to bring in Gecko. You think we'll see Gecko breach dive comps or maybe like split? Yeah, you will. I think Gecko is slowly going to start to replace Skye, and I think Gecko will be added with Skye as double initiator. Because Skye still has the dog, right? Which Gecko doesn't have. So you're gonna need a drone of some kind to take space, which means you're gonna run into like Sova or Skye almost like every map still. Because she's still valuable because of her dog. If she didn't have that, GG. How's Gecko strong if no one uses him in pro play? They will use him in pro play this year, I promise you. Yoru and Gecko will be used way more than they were last year on at least 3 or 4 maps. Gecko's dumb strong. Do you understand? You can pick up Gecko's flash over and over again. It takes like 1 second to pick up. You have like 50 flashes on this guy.
Guiding light will now automatically activate at the end of the flash's lifetime, which is a huge deal. You can still fake them, but not for long. Does it basically mean that once you throw your flash out, that it's gonna pop on its own timer? You can't control when it pops, right? It's gonna pop at the end of the timer. You can still pop it early? Oh, but it has to pop at some point. That's what it is. Okay, I see. That's the biggest thing. You can't fake it. Well, you kind of still can, I guess. I guess if you throw it behind you, they don't know when to turn, right? Like, if you throw it behind you, like, maybe it's going to pop right away. Maybe it's going to pop at the end. You know what I'm saying? Skye's ultimate Seekers will now show a warning indicator towards target. Okay. Is this a huge deal for Skye? Probably, right? It's not a huge... Is it a huge nerf here? Like, someone break down why this is such a huge nerf to me. No rechargeable utility on an initiator. Okay, arguably, like, people are probably saying that this is making the skill ceiling lower, but isn't the skill ceiling being increased because you have to be more careful about when you use your flash because now you only have 2? Or is it just because it's not fair because the other initiators have regeneratable util and now Skye doesn't? I hear that it sucks. I empathize for the pros, but I feel like them changing something right before the season starts is like a test of who can adjust to the meta most quickly. Although I agree that it sucks. Like, I understand it. But like everyone's on the same playing ground in the sense that like they all have to adjust to it. But would you guys rather them give the pros more time on the patch or rather see who can figure it out the quickest? Which I feel like probably will not give us the best gameplay. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Now, I think both of those guys agree, however, that the intention it seems to be for Riot is to get Gecko into play. Because when Gecko is added, on paper, a really cool agent, you know, just the wingman guy that goes and plants and defuses the spike. I still think that's stupid and should be in Valorant personally. But look, it's a feature they've tried to put in and they probably wanted this agent to be played. It hasn't been really, and therefore they've decided, all right, how are we going to make this happen? Is it necessary to try and force the pros into a 2 initiator meta, which is probably what they're going to try and do here? Gecko and Skye potentially, or, you know, Skye and Sova, or something like that is a possibility now, because as FNS was saying, the fact that Gecko doesn't have a dog means that gaining that space using that drone is, well, it's something that is a valuable thing that Gecko doesn't really have access to. So there is definitely a good argument to say that, well, Gecko is very strong, and actually, as Gecko says, right, I mean, you can basically use this flashbang as many times as you want, because you can throw it, you can pick it up very easily, and that is, you know, the fact that Gecko can use it like infinite times within reason, and Skye only has a couple is a big discrepancy. But can you just get away with using Gecko and no Skye? Maybe, but also maybe not. So I don't know, maybe Riot have achieved what they intended to achieve here. That the pros, I think the main frustration is not necessarily about the balance, it's more about the timing, and that's also a point, of course, that Tarik addressed, the point that, well, they don't have that long to prepare for the season, given these pretty significant changes to what the meta is going to look like, which kind of goes both ways. Again, it's a skill gap question, right? Because teams have been practicing for a long time with the way things currently are, with the meta we currently have, and changing that now, right before the start of the season, is not optimal, but at the same time, it means that the teams that are really adaptable, the teams that get on top of this new meta quickly, and they've still got a good few weeks, really. If you're in the pro scene, if you're in challenges and game changers, it's tough because the qualifiers are starting right about now, but arguably, you know, the teams that are better skilled at adapting, they will do better. So I think it kind of goes both ways, but very much into your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.